Comics with Friends. This is part 2 of our Nailbiter episode. Absolutely wild. Two-parter. Hope you guys enjoyed the first part. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. And for everyone who already has checked it out, thank you so much. We love you. And yeah, hopefully the rest of this story is just as fun for you guys as it was for us. Yeah, enjoy. Hello, spookies and spookettes. Welcome to Comics with Friends, the bi-weekly podcast where two best buds get together and read a comic book. We talk about what we like, what we don't like, maybe tell some really lame jokes along the way, but hopefully you get a chuckle. This is actually part 2 of our Nailbiter kind of episode. And we're super excited to get into this. And as usual, I'm joined by my best bud and co-host, Ethan. Hey, buddy.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. Fucking excited to fucking talk about the second half of Nailbiter because honestly, because we're jumping right into part 6. We ended at part 5.
Yeah.
And part 6, the twist at the end of part 6, in part 1, we were talking like, dude, we can't wait to talk about this twist.
Yeah.
We can't wait to talk. So hopefully, whoever's listening also thinks the twist is super cool. Otherwise, they're just going to think we're talking out of our ass.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think I still can't get over how good this first book was. Just really, really good.
Oh,
really,
yeah.
It set my expectations high for, part 2 or, book 2. And I will say, I'm not going to say anything, but I've read a couple pages of book 2, and I am very interested and excited to see what happens.
I mean, after reading this, I'm like, maybe this is one we return to, like for the Halloween, season and everything like that. Because this first book, to anyone who's been listening, thank you. But they also know I am an indie and Image fanboy. The things I would do for Image Comics is wild. And this is just another Image comic book where I'm like, I am super invested in what's going to happen next. So it's like another one. Image has another claw in me, basically. Like they constantly do.
It's going to be really interesting to see your thoughts on like when we eventually get to like the Transformers stuff, because Image now owns Transformers and G.I. Joe, and like I love both of those series going on right now, so it's gonna be really interesting to see how you feel about that.
And like I'm lukewarm on both of those IPs. Like G.I. Joe, obviously as a kid, like played with the toys and like saw the fucking Channing Tatum movie and stuff. God. And then Transformers, same thing. Like fucking watched all the Michael Bay movies, watched some of the like kid shows and stuff like that, but they're not IPs that I'm like super but I'm interested in seeing what Image has done with them.
It's very good. We'll get into it at a later time. We will do those soon, I promise.
But Transformers and G.I. Joe is not very Halloween. So today we are getting in our spooky factor, finishing up Nailbiter. So let's go ahead and dive right back into this story. So we're starting off with part 6. We just had found Carol in part 5. That was a big part of the story leading up to where we left off in part 1. They had just found him. He was a mess, missing all his limbs. His mouth was sewn shut, and that part of the mystery had finally kind of been resolved.
Yeah.
Starting with part 6, we are now sitting with Alice, the goth teen, in her room, and it seems to be that she is journaling about some of the events that are taking place in town. At first, she's saying how like things, were kind of crazy, but they started to mellow out. She talks about how Finch got basically berated and yelled at by a superior officer in the FBI or whatever.
Because I don't know if you remember, part 1 of our video, we had revealed that Finch was actually on trial for murder.
Yes.
And that's all they had gone into.
Yeah, and Alice touches on that. She talks about how he's, getting yelled at by this other FBI agent, his boss, essentially. And
I believe her name is Abigail. Because I was getting her name and Alice's name mixed up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Abigail's, saying you shouldn't be here and stuff like that. Then she talks about how Crane has just been swamped by the media and everything because they found Carol, and that made kind of some news for the local town and everything. I mean, they found him in a tunnel dungeon in the literal serial killer graveyard that they designated solely for the Buckaroo butchers.
Yeah.
Found him in this dungeon tunnel with no legs, no arms, his mouth sewn shut, and he's basically lost his fucking mind from the trauma.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, other than that, things are pretty much back to normal. Oh, and then there's this one thing that happened, and it shows this pregnant lady walking into town. Mm-hmm. And she's not like, a little pregnant. She's like...
She's third trimester.
Yeah, she's ready to pop.
Yeah, any moment.
And she comes barging into the town diner where Alice is. And Alice is like, or the woman, her name's Mallory.
Yeah.
And she's like, where's the museum? Where's the serial killer museum? And Alice is just like, it fucking burned down. We have a really shitty fire station.
Yeah. yeah. Because last time, I forget that guy's name.
Raleigh or whatever.
Yeah. The grandson of the book burner.
Yeah.
He was killed.
Yep.
Towards the end of our first video. From what we know so far, to be the main antagonist, the hidden serial killer.
Yeah, the new Buckaroo butcher, essentially.
And Finch and Crane were saved by Nailbiter, that Edward Warren.
Yep.
And that is kind of where we left off with those characters. It is cool because this part or this chapter feels very because it's all told from present tense or whatever. This story took place before this chapter technically.
Yes, this is essentially Alice kind of reflecting a little bit on the things that happen, and also again, like you said, it's present, but this is actually, with her narration, it's more the past because she is journaling about this.
Yeah.
But the woman Mallory, you can immediately tell she's kind of unhinged, and Alice pegs that almost immediately.
Yeah.
When she tells Mallory that the museum burned down, the woman's just like, "Okay, I'll take a seat," and she's like, "I didn't fucking ask you to." I don't know. What do you mean? And so Alice introduces herself, asks her name. She says it's Mallory, and and Alice is like, "What are you doing here? You look like you're about to pop. What's your due date?" She's like, "Yesterday."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Excuse me?"
Using that maternal power, power to just keep the baby
just
in,
clenching for all she's got. But so Alice is like, "What the fuck are you doing here in Buckaroo?" And Mallory's basically like, "I want to have my kid here so it can become a serial killer and I can become famous." And Alice is like, "You're fucking crazy."
Yeah. If she told me that, I'd be like, "Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. I need to leave.
Check, please. Can I fucking go?" And Alice is just flabbergasted, what the fuck are you talking about? And also saying no one really knows if being born in Buckaroo is actually the truth of why it's more like a urban legend or whatever. But Mallory's just like, what else could it be? And then she starts romanticizing the future of her kid. She's like, he could be a star athlete with a bit of a temper problem, boys will be boys and everything. And then she's like, I'm hoping he can beat Nailbiter's numbers and everything like that. And then when he gets arrested, she'll finally have her calling of helping all the other people who've been ruined or hurt by the Buckaroo butchers and the curse that is Buckaroo and everything. And she's like, I'll go on a book tour and all this other shit. And Alice is like, don't you think that's like fucked up?
Yeah.
and Mallory's just like, are you trying to blame a mother for trying to have a good life? And it's like,
provide a good life for her child.
Yeah,
that kind of deal.
It's like
Jesus.
what? And then Mallory just starts having contractions in the middle of the diner. And
her water
like,
breaks.
Alice is like, are you having contractions right now?
Mm-hmm.
And Mallory's just like starts like, in pain, and everything. She's like, oh shit, you're having contractions. Rushes her to the hospital. And the doctor tries to help Mallory out. And she's like in this crazed state. Mm-hmm. Like they draw her really well in the sense of like showing that like she's fucking like lost it.
They seem to focus a lot on her eyes.
Yes.
Which is really interesting because they're very beady. They're beady. They're small. They have that like eyes wide open type look to them. Yeah. And it is really, really cool. And I'll say, I don't know if we mentioned this in our last video, but this book does focus on eyes a lot.
Yes.
Where it's, it's kind of that metaphor where like you can tell a person's intentions or you can see who they are by looking into their eyes.
I always think when a story use eyes as like a big kind of narrative device or whatever, there's always that saying that eyes are the windows to the soul.
Yeah. That's
what I always go to. And I feel like that's probably intentional when people use that and stuff like that. So, but yeah, her eye, like you just looking at Mallory, you can understand she's
not there.
Yeah, she's missing a few fucking spoons and forks in her, in her set. But the doctor tries to help her out. Normal doctor activities. Oh shit, you're having birth. Let's get you settled and everything. She's just immediately like, you're trying to take my baby.
Yeah,
you're trying to take my baby.
Yeah, and she fucking
stabs the fucking doctor with a syringe right through the fucking cheek and into the tongue. And when I saw that, I like physically was like, oh, like,
yeah,
damn.
Oh god.
I don't know what it is, but like, anytime I see like a horror movie or something like that and like the mouth, like I'm trying to think. There's like been movies where like they get stabbed
or like their cheek.
Yeah. Like I don't know what it is, but that just is like, oh man.
Yeah, I completely understand. There's this one movie I watched a long time ago. I think Nicole and I have both watched it together at this point. It's called The Collector.
Oh fuck that.
There's a second movie, The Collected, where the main character from the first movie, or I guess he's the main character of both movies, but the main character is fighting the killer, and the killer has this like Rambo combat style knife, and he does that exact same thing where he stabs it through the main character's cheek and it goes out the other cheek. And it gets me every time because I agree with you. The mouth stuff, I'm not cool with.
Isn't the second one where there's like the rave or whatever?
Yeah.
And the fucking farm.
The threshers.
Yeah,
the
threshers, fucking comes down and just fucking.
Oh yeah, dude, that shit made me afraid to go to concerts for a little bit. Let me tell you,
dude. The first movie made me afraid to just live anywhere.
Yeah.
You throw home invasion in a horror movie, I'm fucking shitting myself.
Yeah.
It's why I've always been terrified of Saw. Not because of like the like gore and stuff, but literally like I'm just minding my business and then I get abducted and then I'm fucking in a Saw game.
You jaywalked, Mason. You crossed the road without looking both ways.
Time to play a game.
Now you must choose, live or die.
That's actually a really good fucking impression, honestly. But all right, tangent. But yeah, so she stabs the fucking doctor in the mouth and hightails it out of the hospital. Then Crane shows up.
And she's like, "Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah, what the fuck is going on? And the doctor kind of explains it like, we need to hurry up and find her. Like, she and the baby are at risk. And Crane sees Alice, and I kind of am like, Crane, like, you're kind of being a bitch when she goes like, I should have known you're involved. It's like,
yeah,
she was actually doing a good thing, and now you're like, because you don't know the full story, now you're like kind of just now Alice is never gonna want to do a good thing again because she just got fucking berated for doing a good thing. Like, it's not her fault. Mallory's fucking batshit insane.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That bothers me.
I agree. Where it's like the instant, like, you're just gonna blame the teenager.
Yeah.
I will say there seems to be, and Crane does say some things that kind of make you like start to think a little bit. But there seems to be almost a deeper connection to Crane and Alice that we maybe aren't privy to right now. Because she does say, towards the end of this part, like to Alice, like, I just want the best for you, that kind of deal.
This town traps people.
Yeah, and she even mentions, like, it trapped me because, like, obviously Crane,
she's the cop sheriff.
Yeah, she's the sheriff of the town, and she's obviously got a relationship with one of the butchers, and she doesn't feel like she can leave, and she doesn't want that for Alice.
She has this feeling of responsibility of keeping an eye on Warren.
Yeah,
I feel like.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because I don't think it's ever like she ever says that in this book.
I don't.
But that's the impression I get.
She has a responsibility.
I also
or some type of guilt.
Yeah, like I maybe I'm thinking too much on it, but like part of me thinks like she feels responsible for Warren's victims because she didn't notice something was weird about him when they were together growing up.
Yeah. I can imagine that that's a real thing, like that maybe some of these family members of serial killers feel, where it's like, because they're just normal people.
Yeah.
But then something happens and, their father or son, daughter, whatever, they go on a killing spree and they're like, fuck, what could I have done? To make sure this didn't happen, not just to the victims, but to my own child or my parent or whatever.
Possibly. Well, I don't know. Maybe she became a cop before all that came to light, but could also be one of the reasons why she decided to become a cop in the first place. But
we'll probably get an answer to that in a
later volume.
Yeah, in a later book.
But that's just the impression I get from Crane. Also, one of the reasons why she's my favorite character. In this book.
But I do agree it is frustrating that she just goes instantly to blame, but I think there's a point behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it's good intention, obviously, because like she says, she wants the best for Alice, but the way she goes about it is probably not ideal.
Yeah,
I mean, like yelling at a kid never really solves anything.
No, not really.
Other than them. Especially a teenager.
Yeah, it just
shuts them down.
Yeah, keep secrets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Alice basically says like, "Go fuck yourself" to Crane.
Yeah,
because she's like, "I'm gonna leave." But the funny twist is, literally the next page,
they're both together.
Alice is chasing Crane, like, "Hey, wait a minute, like, let me go with you and everything." Yeah. And Crane's literally like, "Didn't you tell me to go fuck myself literally 30 seconds ago?"
It's that teenager thing. Yeah. Teenager mentality.
But Alice ends up helping Crane out. She kind of like explains what Mallory was saying, and Crane's essentially like, okay, she couldn't have gone far. She obviously didn't show up in like a car or anything like that. And then she's like, "Alice, is there anything she said that could help us like kind of narrow down where she possibly could be?" And Alice is like kind of going over it, and she's like, she did say at one point she didn't care even if the baby was born in a barn. And that is kind of like, she says that, and Alice has this like, oh shit epiphany.
Yeah.
And then the next page, they go up to an abandoned farm that was once owned by one of the Buckaroo butchers' family, the blonde, which in part one we mention her and talk about her a little bit, where she is she basically was like a Black Widow character.
Yeah, she essentially, her victims were anyone who catcalled her, or anyone who tried to pick her up off the street, that kind of deal.
And Crane it was where they had that like kind of like joke moment between Finch and Crane, where Finch, it was the guy,
the silent movie killer.
Yeah, where people talked in movies, he killed them.
Yeah,
and Finch made a joke of like, "That's a killer I can get behind." Crane had something similar with the blonde.
Yeah,
and that was a light, quote unquote, lighthearted moment between those two characters in the first half of the book. But they roll up to this barn, and Crane is basically like, "This is the last last one. We've checked all the other barns, and Alice is like, I doubt she's here, honestly. Like, I don't think we're going to find her. And sure enough, Mallory's here, and she comes out with a fucking 2x4, pregnant and all. Like, she's about to fucking mollywop these two.
She's ready to go to fucking town.
And at the same time, when she's like sneaking up behind them, Alice is like, I don't think she actually like means any harm. Like, I think she wants us to help her.
Yeah.
And Mallory approaches them and is like, you know, like, get away from me. You're not going to take my baby, all this kind of stuff. And Crane's like, no one's trying to take your baby. We're trying to help you. And Mallory's like, you're just like everyone else. You all think I'm crazy, but I'm not. I just wanted to be known for something, which I think is a sentiment that a lot of people can somewhat understand, because it's like, you know, when you get kind of caught up in the daily routine of things, you know, you go to work, you go home, you know, go to bed, and it's just the same fucking cycle over and over again. You kind of feel like this lost feeling. Oh yeah. You know, of like, what am I really doing with my life? Mm-hmm. And I think Mallory, just because she's a single mom, it's not explicitly stated, but by the end of this part, it's kind of implied she's a single mom, because she does say, I don't want to do this alone.
Yeah. So it definitely is heavily implied.
Yeah. So she's like a single mom, you know, and that's scary in itself, you know, especially with like a newborn and everything like that. So she's probably just, and I think Alice pieces that together a little bit.
Yeah.
But
You can tell that Alice is really good at reading people.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was very evident by her very, very brief conversation with Edward Warren when Crane had him locked up for his own safety.
Yeah.
And you can tell that Alice is probably going to be a pretty big piece into solving this mystery, because she is just able to read people.
Oh yeah. And Mallory runs from Crane and Alice, and she ends up kind of like falling over, and they catch up to her. And when they catch up to her, she starts having more contractions. Mm-hmm. She's ready to have the kid, like right here, right now.
Baby's coming.
Yeah.
it ain't going anywhere else.
And Crane is like, Alice, you gotta fucking help me. And Alice is like, do what? And she's like, what do you fucking think? Like, we gotta deliver this baby right now. And so she has the baby out in the middle of this fucking field, and Mallory kind of like comes back to her senses. And you can see that because, like we talked about with the eyes earlier, as soon as she has the baby, her eyes,
we keep knocking
into these. It's too early.
Yeah, it's too early in the day.
But her eyes go from that like deranged kind of like really small to like the other characters more normal and everything like that. And I think when she has the baby, she kind of comes back to her senses. She actually worries. She's like, she was born in Buckaroo. What do I do if she becomes a serial killer? And Alice is like, you don't have to worry about that. She wasn't born in Buckaroo. You're actually past the city line right now.
Yeah,
you're actually outside of the city line.
Because during their little scuffle, they had actually like busted through the barn fence essentially, and that was
the city
limit. Yeah. So yeah, she ends up going to therapy, I believe.
Yep, she goes to therapy. She got to keep the child, which Alice says. She even gets to keep the baby named the little vomit and poop monster Beth, which I thought that was funny, because I'm immature.
Yeah.
And so I laugh at things like that. And Alice is like, they're going to leave and live in Portland. She's probably going to become a hippie next. And then as for Crane, it kind of shows Crane dropping Alice off. And then Crane actually saying to Alice, I'm proud of you for what you did today. And Alice is just kind of like, thanks. And the last panel of this page, she's got like her journal or whatever in her hands, and the narration is kind of implying she's writing in this journal.
Yeah.
And she says, Buckaroo is a weird town, and it seems to be getting weirder, which is fine with me. At least then it's interesting. But but the people outside, like the town's famous for like the Buckaroo butchers and everything like that, and people see all that from the outside.
Yeah.
But they're not stuck in this town. They're not stuck here like the rest of us. And then you turn the page, and it is a full page panel of her journal, and it just is her writing "Am I crazy?" all over the page, so, like in different colors. And
so this whole time because she starts off writing in the journal.
Yeah.
And so this whole time you're like, oh, she's writing this in her journal.
Yeah.
And she's narrating the whole thing. Nope. She's fucking crazy.
She's fucking insane. And maybe we're looking at it wrong, because, you know, whatever. But when I first read that twist got me. I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. That is an amazing twist, especially coming off, like, for example, like Green Lantern. Because a lot of the narration for that was the letter that
Hal was writing for his brother.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking, you know, it's just this one segment. It's like her journal, whatever. Totally in a sense of security and everything.
Yeah.
And then that last panel happens, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, Alice is fucking crazy, too.
Yeah, so there's a chance she could be the serial killer.
Yeah, there's a chance she could be the serial killer or become one. Like, I'm like, all the possibilities.
Which they... You know, in later chapters, I think it starts in 7. It might be a little bit later than that. They start to really hint at that idea that the kids born in Buckaroo are like some of them are just destined to become crazy serial killers. And it kind of makes you think, you know, oh shit, Alice might be one of those.
Yeah.
Part 8 is
part 7.
Part 7, yeah. Yep. Part 7 is probably my favorite part, just because.
Well, do you wanna lead this one then?
Yeah, I'll lead this one. So we open up this.
Dude, this caught me off guard.
Oh, yeah,
it was so random, but hilarious.
I was reading this at work on my break, and I went, "What the fuck?" So we open Part 7, and I love the quote for Part 7 too. I'm a big fan.
Yep.
I'm not a big fan, but
yeah.
I like some of it.
Yeah. But now remember, since we're in part 2, probably should refresh anyone. So these parts open up with lines from the upcoming part. So part 7, I'm a big fan. That line's going to be said at some point in this part. But take it away.
So yeah, we open up Part 7 with this bald gentleman running in just pure darkness, crying out for help.
Yep.
He's like, somebody save me. He's going to fucking kill me. And he's saying, help, help, help. And then as he yells help, it gets cut off. And then it cuts back in time.
Yep.
To this gentleman on his bike riding. And Brian Michael Bendis.
Makes an appearance
in Nailbiter. He comes to Buckaroo. He's essentially writing Nailbiter. Like, obviously he didn't write Nailbiter, but he's essentially writing his own version of Nailbiter.
He's like the in-universe writer for Nailbiter, but it's not.
Obviously it's not, because Joshua Williamson.
Yeah, exactly. Nailbiter. So it's weird, but it's also like super fucking random.
It's crazy, and it's kind of, and I'll bring it up here in just a second. He comes in. And he's talking to Crane, and he's wanting to get as much information as possible about this town, because he wants to write the next big thing. And he's all about going out to the place he's researching and actually experiencing it, which is, I believe, something that Brian Michael Bendis actually does.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, I believe he actually does like to go out and go to the places that he writes about. So that way he can,
I mean, it's in Nailbiter. It must be true.
Yeah. And because this came out in 2014, I think. 2013, 2014. No, Brian Michael Bendis was already kind of a big writer at this point.
Because he was already doing Ultimate Spider-Man.
Because Ultimate Spider-Man is what made him big.
Yeah.
You know, made him big in the mainstream comics.
Yes.
He had been an indie writer for, you know, a while before that. But, you know, the indie is his roots.
Yeah.
And so he's always been about, like, promoting indie writers and making them, like, come over to mainstream comics.
Respectable.
Yeah,
Yep.
respectable. Whether you like his writing style or not is purely up to personal taste.
Yeah.
He's written some stuff that I do love. He's written some stuff that
I do not
I
like.
do not like. I'm looking at you, Superman. So, but yeah, he's asking Crane for like an interview, and Crane's essentially like, I've got work to do. Like I ain't got time. I've got like 3 dead fucking people, 4 dead people, and a guy who just became a stump. Like
Just had to chase down a pregnant lady not too long ago.
Yeah, like my hands are a little full, Mr. Bendis.
It's just so funny. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah. So they're having that conversation, and then we cut to Finch and Abigail at the hospital where Carol is being held. And Abigail is essentially like, you shouldn't even be here. Like, you're not supposed to leave your house. Like, you have a trial in like 2 weeks. And Finch says like, you know, it doesn't matter. Like I've gotten permission from my parole officer. I can be here. It's a special case. And Abigail's like, you murdered that man. Like she's not really giving details as to what happened, but all Finch really says is he had it coming, which is like, damn.
Yeah.
Makes you really wonder, like, what did this guy fucking do to deserve that? And all while they're having this conversation, Brian Michael Bendis is
eavesdropping
right behind. He's pulling like a Splinter Cell, Metal Gear Solid, like hiding behind the window, eavesdropping type move, and
classic Ubisoft game type shit.
Yeah,
you know?
and he's getting all these notes down because Abigail is just full on like, you know, you're a walking crime scene.
Yeah,
you broke the law, all this kind of stuff. She's just really giving him the riot act, that kind of deal. And Bendis leaves, and he's like, "Oh, this is fucking great material." Let me tell you.
Oh my gosh.
And then we get to a scene that I really like. Now, I think I had mentioned this to you before.
Yeah.
And he goes around and he interviews all these townsfolk, and it's this really nice, almost like Alan Moore style, like panel composition, or not. I guess not Alan Moore, but like Watchmen style composition, where it's a grid layout, and you get all these different answers because he asks like, "Oh, what is your connection to the Buckaroo Butchers?" And a lot of people are like, I don't want to talk about it, or, "Oh, they're my cousin," or "They were my boyfriend." And throughout this, you get these nice little nods to other creators in the comic book industry. So there's one for what looks to be, I believe, Jack Kirby Sr., who is obviously very prolific in the comic book industry. He created the New Gods. He created the Kirby Crackle that everyone knows. Anything cosmic was created by Jack Kirby, whether it's DC or Marvel. You get a really cool little nod to Alan Moore himself, where he says his little stupid Alan Moore thing, like, "Oh, we all have connections," that kind of shit. There's a Frank Miller reference in here where he's like, "Oh, they still make comics," which is very Frank Miller, where he views himself a little bit above that. And it's really cool. But most of the people tell him, "We don't want any part of this.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about it."
Yeah. Until eventually he gets to this one gentleman who is at the playground with his son. And he tells Bendis, like, I was the younger brother of one of the killers, and he was the younger brother of the Whistler, where he held 10 people captive in his basement and he tortured them to death, and the only thing that he would do would whistle. He wouldn't really talk to them. The only reason why he got caught is because one of his victims actually escaped and made it to a payphone.
Yeah.
So, and he essentially says, like, I wanted to leave this town after that had happened, because he kind of leans into that, what I was talking about earlier, where we have these scenarios where these people are doing heinous things, and how do these family members react?
Yeah.
Kind of deal. And he says, like, I feel guilty.
Yeah.
I feel like it was my responsibility to make sure he was a good, because I think this guy's the older brother, the guy talking to Bendis, and he says like it was my responsibility to make sure he grew up and was a respectable person and didn't do these horrible things. And he also mentions like, and I was the one that taught him how to whistle.
Yeah.
And so like he feels like incredible guilt over all of this. And he says that like as a part of his like punishment almost, like he didn't leave.
Yeah. It's kind of like him serving penance.
Yeah.
You know?
Like he wants to leave, but he he can't.
And it's super interesting because he brings up the, like the whistle. Like I taught him how to whistle. And it's like, that just goes to show like people will take on the blame for something over something so minute and something so small. Like because probably in his head, he's probably like, if I didn't teach him how to whistle, maybe he wouldn't have killed anybody.
Right.
But it's like, no.
He would have killed.
He would have killed regardless. He just would have been known for something else, or like he wouldn't have been whistling while doing it. It's not because you taught him how to whistle that he became a serial killer. But people cling on to things like that, and especially when they feel at fault.
Oh yeah.
When they're blaming themselves.
Oh yeah.
It's just super interesting to me.
Yeah. So I do know that they talk a little bit about they don't talk about the curse here, but either way, the brother leaves, and right before Bendis leaves to the town because he's like, oh, I got enough material. Edward Warren shows up and he's like, I'll be damned, it really is you. And he's like, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was getting my hopes up that we'd have a chance to meet, but you're right here, and I really need you to sign some books for me because Edward Warren is a fucking comic book fan.
Yeah.
And Bendis is like, no. I don't want to.
You're fucking scaring the shit out of me.
I don't want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And essentially, Edward's like, I don't have anything crazy. I don't have like number ones of anything, but like if you could sign it, it would mean a whole lot to me. Blah blah blah. And he essentially tells Edward Warren to like fuck off, and he's like, and Edward's like, well, if you sign these for me, like I'll give you what you want. Yeah. Like I'll give you the material that you want. And he starts talking about, it's interesting because Warren is talking about comic books while Bendis is trying to talk about the subject at hand, because he mentions like or Edward mentions like, oh, you and I aren't too different. We're very similar. And Bendis is like, how are we in any way similar? He's like, we're both killers. Yeah. I killed my people, of course. You killed Peter Parker. You killed Alpha Flight, Ares, Scott Lang. He starts naming off all these comic characters. And Bendis is like, this is vastly different. Yeah. This is not the same. And he's like, how so? How is it any different? Because those people were loved. The people that I killed were loved. And it's a very interesting conversation. Like, obviously, like
what Nailbiter did, what Edward Warren did was atrocious. Yeah. It's not anywhere near the same as killing a comic book character.
But it is interesting how I can kind of see his point.
Yeah.
Because growing up, now, especially for me, I don't know about you, there are characters in fiction that I have this very deep connection to and I love. Obviously, I love characters like Green Lantern, Gambit, Wolverine, all those kinds of characters.
Oh, yeah.
Transformers, I love Optimus Prime, I love Hot Rod, I love those characters. And when those characters cease to exist or die or have some kind of meaningful send-off, it feels like a part of you is just like gone.
Yeah.
And a good example. Now, obviously, I'm not a huge fan of the series anymore because I feel like it kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit. But Walking Dead was a big one.
Yeah.
Glenn was my favorite character in both the book and show. And when they killed him off in both, I was done.
Yeah, me too.
I just, because I had such a deep connection with that character, and I loved that character so much that I just, when he died, I was like, man, I'm kind of out.
I mean, I can. I agree with you because, as you know, like I read a lot of like books without pictures, in them.
Novels, yeah.
Yeah. And I feel the same way. There's book series I've read where one of the not main characters, but like the main side characters or whatever, passed away or were killed or whatever. That I was like, I felt it like in my soul of like, oh my gosh, like they're dead.
Yeah.
And like mourned that they were dead, but it's just a fictional fucking character.
Yeah.
I mean, but then also you can flip it on its head, you know, when a villain that you really don't like gets killed.
Yeah. And you're like, that deserved.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, it's just interesting how, and it's one of the reasons why I love storytelling. It's why I like books, comic books, all these different versions of storytelling, video games, you know, of like just the ability to make you feel like these characters are real people. And that's what Edward Warren is kind of equating it to.
Yeah.
Because like, how many times have you watched a movie or watched a show or read a book and you just are like, that character, like, I love them. Everything about it, they are like, we match up on everything. Like, I love their style, all this stuff. And then they're ripped from you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's happened.
I mean, that's why people cry in movies and the things like that. I mean, I've cried more at reading books than I have watched movies. Like, I've shed some tears reading books.
Oh, yeah.
Like, one of the most recent book series I've read is, I remember talking to you about it, was Red Rising trilogy. I'm still working on the second half of that because he did like another trilogy or whatever, continuing on. So technically it's 6 books.
Yeah, it's like a sequel series.
Yeah. But when I was reading that trilogy, within like the first, I think it's like 5 chapters, I cried.
Yeah.
And I just met the characters, but I legit fucking shed some tears. Because, like, I felt like I was there. I felt like these were real people. And I know we're going on a tangent, but I get it's one of the reasons why I like D&D so much. Like, I get super passionate about storytelling in general. I mean, for the longest time, I've wanted to be, like, an author or a creative writer. But even though I still write time to time, it's kind of one of those things where life just kind of gets in the way, don't really have time to do and everything like that. So like D&D is kind of the supplement for that.
Right.
But I get super passionate about storytelling. I love storytelling so much. That's why I love doing this, you know, reading these comic books and talking about it with you and everything. I you know, it's one of the reasons why I like Image so much. While like DC and Marvel, they can, you know, bring philosophical stuff and everything in there. I feel like indie comics do it better.
You have a lot
not
more freedom.
Yeah, they're not beholden to certain things.
Like continuity.
Yeah, continuity, stuff like that. So they can kind of bring up those deeper philosophical things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also, I haven't read a whole lot, so maybe I'm off base. Maybe Marvel and DC do that. I mean, but
I think that all just comes down to like, obviously, like you just said, you haven't read a whole lot of DC and Marvel, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You don't have to.
Yeah.
I definitely, you know, I'll say I think DC and Marvel have done great jobs bringing up very like philosophical questions, very deep, meaningful topics. But I do agree with you in the sense of like the continuity gets in the way of that a lot of the times. And I agree that Image/indie does it better in general because
they have that freedom.
They're not beholden to it. Yeah. A lot of these series are like
a big tangent, but I get very passionate about the storytelling side of things. I love it so much. That's why I like reading. But tangent over. You may continue on.
They're essentially having this conversation that Edward believes is just you know.
It's mental gymnastics.
Yeah, it's the mental gymnastics of him being like, well, what I did is not any worse than what you've done.
Yeah, like you've done just as bad things. And Michael Bendis is like, the fuck you mean?
Yeah. And Edward's saying like, you know, you're wanting to write this story about these real killers. And he essentially tells him like, I'm going to go ahead and give you the short answer. Don't do it. stop pursuing this.
Yeah.
Like you'll regret it because the moment you jump down that rabbit hole, like there's no going back.
Again, kind of giving you a peek that Edward Warren knows more of what's going on
Than what
he's saying, because back to part 1 when we recorded that, he seemed to know who the figure that killed Raleigh or whatever,
yeah.
the owner of the museum.
Yeah.
He seemed to know not who they were, but like knew
They have
that
some
there's
type of
something
past.
bigger is behind this.
Yeah, they have some sort of past, and it's very evident.
Yeah.
So, Bendis, he's talking to Edward, and he's he doesn't get a response. And when he looks over, Edward's gone, and in the distance he sees this mausoleum. He sees the butcher graveyard, and he goes and he starts taking pictures and all kinds of stuff, and he sees the hole that Crane and Finch dug to get down into that little catacomb
where they found Carol.
Yeah. And
catacombs would be accurate. Yeah.
And Bendis is like, I really shouldn't fucking do this, and he's like, I'm gonna do it anyway. Anything for
the art.
Anything for the art, man. This guy is a true artist. I need to take some fucking lessons from him. Because if I had even an ounce of the fucking gumption that he had, I would be. My armies would be.
I was gonna say all your minis would be fucking painted. Yeah. I wouldn't still be waiting on the rest of my Black Templars to be painted.
Everything would be fucking painted. Yeah. All done.
It's fine. I'm not complaining, because you're doing it for free for me. So
you're just putting me on blast on the internet.
Yeah. What's a little, applied pressure? That's all.
Yeah. Your Black Templar is about to be Gray Templars forever.
Yeah. All 5 of the people that listen to it are really going to start pressuring you and being like, why is the Black Templars not painted?
Yeah.
But I mean, you have Chaos Space Marines, fucking
Blood Angels.
Blood
Angels is my main army.
Yeah. You have
got all of Evan's fucking armies now.
Yeah, that's true. That man. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so he goes down into the catacomb, and he's walking around, and he's starting to hear this whistle, and he's starting to get freaked out, and you can tell because in the panels he's like shaking, that kind of stuff, and he's like trying to be like, hello, is anybody here? And he hears the whistle again, and he's looking around, and eventually he gets to this wall that has these like almost like cave paintings or cave etchings that you would see in like prehistoric times. And it's etched with blood. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? And that's basically where we catch up with what happened at the beginning of this chapter.
Yep.
Because he's looking at it, and then somebody behind him says it's blood, and then he freaks out. The whistling starts again, and he's running. He drops his phone, and he's like, get me the fuck out of here. And that's when he runs into Sheriff Crane.
Yep.
And she's like, what the hell are you doing down here? This is off limits.
Yeah.
And he, Bendis is like, someone's chasing me. They're going to kill me, blah, blah, blah. And I saw these weird ass paintings, and she's like, show me. And he takes her to the wall, and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, what the fuck? We cut to what looks to be a midnight release for a new comic. And Bendis is there to sign the comic.
But he's kind of like dazed and confused a little bit.
And he's like, oh, okay, I'll take some signatures. I'll answer a couple questions, that kind of deal. And as people are handing him comics, one of his assistants brings him a note. And when he opens it, it says, I let you live in the caves, but I'll be watching you.
Yeah.
Which is, when I read that, I kind of had bumps just a little bit, because I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And
it's like I know what you did last summer.
Oh yeah. And essentially when that happens, when he gets that letter, he stops getting material for his book.
Yeah.
Like he's like, okay, I'm canceling this. I'm not doing it anymore.
Smart move.
Yeah. And we cut back with Finch and Crane talking about, you know, the cave drawings, and he was like, oh, he said he saw some. Hopefully whatever spooked him like scared him off for good. So we know it wasn't like Finch or Crane scaring him off. There is something down there.
Maybe Alice.
Who knows? But they go back to the wall. I guess they find the wall that Bendis actually saw.
Yeah.
And because again, he saw that in like pure darkness, so he had no idea where he was.
Yeah.
And he, you know, Finch is like, this is fresh blood. This has not been here that long. And Carol turns the wall, or turns the like a kind of like a spotlight or a floodlight to another wall, and she's like, yeah, but this blood is old,
like ancient
kind of old. And what's interesting is it's the shape of like almost like a demon or a ram's head, which is the same type of mask that new killer is wearing.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. So
an interesting part, because that's the end of part 7.
Oh yeah, I think that was my favorite issue.
Yeah,
I don't know why, because not a lot of stuff happened. I think it's the interaction with Warren and Bendis. The Bendis stuff is super funny.
Yeah. It's an entertaining. I think it does a pretty good job of like building out some more of like the town lore and everything like that, and like kind of just setting some more of the mysteries up and everything like that.
Yeah. And part 7 ends with, because Carol's kind of like at a dead end. She doesn't really, man, you opening drinks up in here? Carol's like, we're basically at a dead end. I have no leads. And Finch is like, you know, it's time for me to do what I do. And he's like, he's going to get a confession.
Yeah. This next part, honestly, I think is my least favorite.
Okay.
I out of all the issues, because I feel, other than the connection with like earlier in the book when they talk about the bees.
Yeah.
Other than that, I just found it kind of lacking.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a bad issue or a bad chapter.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying
it's my least favorite.
Least favorite out of the 10.
I definitely feel, because they can go in any direction with this book right now.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously a supernatural aspect to it.
100%.
There's a true crime aspect to it. This almost seems to pose the question that there might be a scientific answer to the Buckaroo Butcher situation.
I'm feeling more that this still leans on supernatural.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because to me, so we'll obviously get into it, but this focuses a lot on the bees, like Mason said.
Yeah.
They seem to almost hint at the bees carrying some type of like pheromone. So that's why to me it feels almost scientific in a way, like sci-fi.
That's another reason why like I'm kind of feel this
might be the weakest.
It's because like it might make more sense in volume 2 or in the future, but as of right now, this part 8 is like the most like just kind of disjointed, like out of place considering the rest of the context of the other issues around it.
Like Finch gets some cool scenes in it, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He does get some good scenes in there. But I do agree. I think it's the weakest, and if my theory is correct on the scientific thing, I would much rather them lean into the supernatural. Yeah,
supernatural. My thing is if you do a horror genre thing, whether it be movie, game, whatever, it's a game. All right, let me back up real quick. For this style of story, that's kind of in the real world.
Yeah.
I feel like doing a science-based kind of horror, like science
sci-fi.
Science is kind of the reason why the things are the way they are. I feel like doesn't work as well compared to like if you have like a science fiction, like the world itself is science fiction, and then the reason, the monstrosities or the things that are happening are science-based. It's a little more acceptable.
Yeah, but since this is in reality,
I feel like supernatural works more
works better. Yeah.
I mean, it's not that science fiction can't work in a real world setting.
Yeah, because it can.
Because it can.
I agree with you with the story that they are setting up.
It feels like Supernatural would lend itself better.
Even if, because I'm still of the belief that there is no supernatural stuff going on.
Oh, I'm totally opposite of that.
Even if supernatural, like, if it ends up not being a supernatural thing and it's just like a bunch of coincidence or it's like smoke and mirrors type deal.
Yeah.
That to me is still super interesting because you're like, this whole time you're like, oh, it's a ghost. Oh,
right.
It's, whatever, it's possession, all that stuff. And then they reveal like, oh no, this is how that worked. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I'm not saying that'd be bad. I'm not saying that'd be bad, but if you're gonna do that, I would rather save that. I'd rather save that kind of like breadcrumbs of like, is this based in science for later? This is more because this whole first 10 is a lot of like, we're leading you, like there's some resolution with some of the mystery, like with Carol finding Carol and stuff, but like a lot of this is like,
and there's stuff that happens after this part as well, after this chapter that like leans into the supernatural aspect.
Yes.
And it is, I will say, I think besides chapter 7, I think it's the bus chapter. I think that might be my other favorite because
that's a really good
cliffhanger.
That is the last one.
The cliffhanger it leaves off on is super interesting.
I actually really like the next part because of one particular scene, and I think you know what I'm talking about because it involves Crane.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get there when we get there.
Oh, I do know what you're talking about. I love that scene because it sent shivers down my spine.
That shit made me literally jump while reading it. I kid you fucking not. I literally turned the page and saw it and fucking like was like, oh shit. Like that fucking got me.
Yeah, it was good.
Again, this is my first ever horror comic, so I was not expecting to like actually get like a fucking jump scare.
Right.
So, which goes to show paneling and composition is super fucking important.
Super important.
But let's get into this part before we drag on too much time. Part 8 starts with a quote. Again, from within this part, we'll probably hear it. What kind of predator would sacrifice itself so that it could kill another? Yep. Really kind of badass quote.
Yeah. That quote feels so like Hannibal. Like that's something you would hear from like Hannibal Lecter.
Exactly. Put the lotion in the basket. I know that's not him, but you get what I'm saying.
Buffalo Bill.
Yeah. So we start off the part with a bee getting like torn apart, like it's like not ripped, but like
it's almost surgical,
dissected, like tweezers involved, like pulling out the stinger, and someone is singing a song. In my head, I'm imagining like something from like the 50s or 60s,
or that like the I forget the name of the song, but it was in Insidious, the Through the Window.
Oh yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then watching someone get run over with a fucking lawnmower. But as you turn the page and it shows someone working at like a table or something with the fucking standing magnifying glass and just a shit ton of like bee bodies, like honey, and these are honeybees. These aren't like wasps or anything like that. And the person that's like dissecting them or whatever is like talking to themselves, and he's just kind of like, I've made a mess, still nothing, the secrets these small assassins keep still evade me. Like he's like dissecting or killing these bees for a reason, and I'm not sure why. And it's never really answered why either.
No, I think that's on purpose though, because of what happens later in this chapter. So,
but he does say, if we're ever going to be better people, ever save this town, we must unlock, and then it cuts.
Yeah.
So you don't know what he was actually going to say. My imagination is saying like unlock the secret behind the bees or some shit like that, considering he's just got piles of bee corpses.
This is part of the reason why I'm like, this might be going into like a science explanation of it,
Maybe
like a scientific reason.
maybe. I don't know.
That's part of it.
Again, I'm super interested to keep reading.
Oh yeah, no,
You know
yeah.
what I'm
This,
saying?
this
'Cause
chapter did not dissuade me whatsoever.
Yeah.
I still liked it a lot.
My only complaint is that it's kind of disjointed.
Yeah.
Like everything else is kind of like flows pretty good, but this is like, boom, we're just gonna throw this in here, and you're gonna not know what's going on, but that's gonna be a question that you want answered.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna throw this in.
It was thrown in there, and all we had gotten prior to this chapter
Was like one line.
One line about bees.
Yeah,
That was it.
how it used to.
The town used to be like a bee farm, and
like,
then
that
the
was their
business
main.
dried-
Yeah, that was their main export for
Yeah.
the town was like honey and bee stuff.
Yeah.
Essentially. But it cuts from this creepy dude in the basement to Finch showing up at a house, and this house has like the bee farm, like I don't know what they're called, the beehives.
Oh,
where they're in the like the.
You're talking about like the little terrarium type things,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
they
yeah.
put the honeycomb in there.
Yeah. And it has those around the house, and Finch is like. Looks like this is a place, and he kind of shit talks the bees a little bit. He's not a bee fan. I'm with Finch. I hate bees because I swell up like a fucking balloon when I get stung. So, I fucking hate bees. I'd hate to be here. If I was Finch, I would have just set the whole place on fire. And
You'd hate to be there.
It's good. Don't get me wrong. It's good, but let's not.
All right, continue before I
right.
get kicked off the show.
Yeah. Basically, he's standing in this person's yard, and someone shouts at him, "How about I give you until the count of fucking one?" And there's a fucking Billy Bob Thornton fucking overall fucking shotgun redneck standing on his porch, basically like, "Get off my fucking yard." And basically Finch is like, "Look, I don't know if you know what happened in town and everything like that." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I heard Raleigh got killed. There's the dead kids," which were talking about the two I forget their names, the jocks that were like helping.
I believe it was Hank.
I forget the dark-haired one.
Ronnie.
Yeah. They were the kids that helped Raleigh because Raleigh was helping whoever the new butcher is or whatever is going
Robbie.
on. Robbie?
That was his name, Robbie. And Hank, yeah.
But so the guy's like, "Yeah, I've heard about it." And Finch is like, "Well, do you know who Carol is?" And the guy's like, "No fucking clue who that is." Mm-hmm. And he holds up one of Carol's notes that he managed to save from when his motel was caught on fire, and it just says "bees?" ?
Yeah.
Then it cuts to Abigail and Crane at the shooting range, and Crane is like, practicing. She's a damn good fucking shot. And Abigail is kind of like approaching her, basically doing some small talk and everything like that, and kind of questioning her on the quote unquote person they saw at the museum, the black horned killer, like kind of like disbelieving of it, of like, am I really supposed to believe some dude's running around in like armor and a fucking helmet?
Yes.
Like kind of thing. Like,
Yes.
yeah, I fucking saw it.
There are no less than 16 serial killers from this town. Anything is possible.
Yeah, that is true.
I'm sorry. I don't have horror movie logic.
Yeah.
Like I have Ethan logic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna believe some crazy shit's going down.
I am so paranoid that when I turn the light off in a room, I run to a room with a light on,
So that way the demon doesn't get me.
so the demon doesn't get me.
If the light switch is at the bottom of the stairs and Nicole's already in the bedroom, I'm turning that shit off and running.
Yeah, and if you fucking fall, that's it. That's game over.
Yep.
Like that's just how it is. But Abigail's like, I can't tell if she's implying that she thinks Finch is the problem, because she does go like, "Are you sure you're not covering for anybody?" to Crane, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like,
I think that I don't think it's Finch. I think it's
Warren.
Warren.
Yeah, because she does bring up Oh, yeah. She's like, you just sure you're not covering for anybody? And Crane's like, what are you trying to say? She's like, Abigail's like, I think it's implied. Your ex-boyfriend, Nailbiter. And Crane's just like, I cannot fucking believe that you would even suggest that. But she's like, look around you. Like, the place is covered in fucking media. Like, there's people who come to town to like, for example, last part you had fucking Bendis showing up. There's constantly eyes
and
on
the lady wanting her baby to be born.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, what makes you think I have the time to fucking cover for anybody or be involved,
especially a serial killer?
Yeah, especially a serial killer
who already has people on his ass.
Yeah, and Abigail's like, where do you suggest I start then? Like, for my thing. And she's like, not my job to fucking tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have to fucking figure it out on your own. And Abigail's like, well, what if Carol doesn't wake up and we can't ask him any questions? And she's like, well, kind of your shit out of luck, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, that's, again, not my problem.
Basically, she's like, we just wait until he wakes up, or so that's just kind of all we can do is wait for him to wake up.
They have no leads.
Yeah, they have none whatsoever.
So they do kind of have to just wait for the killer to strike again.
Yeah, which is not ideal.
No,
you don't want someone to die, but it's like...
No, but sometimes that is the only thing you got.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
As this is happening, outside of Warren's house, there's another crowd forming.
A lot of media.
And I can't tell if this guy is a reporter or just a disgruntled town folk. I think he's got a press badge.
Yeah,
he's a reporter,
so
he's basically like trying to be like, I have questions and everything. Like, fucking come out here and answer these questions. And the cops are like holding him back, and Warren just sticks a hand out and just is like, that one there, he may enter, like fucking beckoning him with one finger. The guy goes in and then immediately fucking runs out in fear.
Yeah.
And Warren's just like, I guess he didn't like my answer, my. And then he goes back inside and he's painting. I can't tell if it's red paint or if it's like blood or what, but he's finger painting, and he draws Crane's face.
Pretty good artist.
But like a really good artist.
He'd make a killing.
Yeah, for just finger painting, And he says, like, back to my masterpiece. Like, this guy, it's one of the things I'm excited for in the future volumes is this dynamic between Warren and Crane.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's so interesting. That's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of like cop shows.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like that.
Same.
Of the procedurals and stuff. I think it's because growing up, whenever I was at my grandma's, she was constantly watching like Murder, She Wrote or fucking Law and Order, shit like that. And I like it when they do that dynamic of like the criminal and the cop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the show Hannibal with Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
I think I said that right.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah. That's a really good fucking show if you've ever seen it.
I haven't, but I know my grandma's watched it and she's told me about it a lot.
It is super fucking good.
Yeah.
Very gory.
That's what I've heard.
It is very, very good. But yeah, that dynamic of like the killer or the criminal with the cop, I just love that dynamic. So I'm super excited to see that kind of be developed more and everything in future volumes.
Same.
Now we go from Warren's house to in
Kinda
front
like
of
the town square type deal, or is it in front of the murder?
It's in front of the murder museum, and it's actually Hank's dad is a priest.
Yeah.
Or recently became a priest.
Yeah.
And is like preaching to the crowd.
Preaching the gospel.
Quote unquote the gospel. Really what he's doing is he's riling up the crowd because he's basically
inciting a mob.
Yeah, he wants to get pitchforks and torches ready to fucking storm Warren's house because they didn't learn from the first time not to fucking do that.
Yeah.
And
you definitely get this. What's that one show off of Netflix? I think it's like a vampire show or something, like Midnight Mass.
Oh yeah,
It gives off that vibe.
Look, I know there's some people who don't like that show. I fucking loved Midnight Mass.
I've never watched it. I think Nicole watched a couple episodes, but I can't remember. But the only thing I could really get from that was that there was a really heavy, like, religious
there was
thing about that.
Yes.
And there was almost like a zealotry to it.
It's all because of one character, and fuck that bitch. The actress did amazing. I love the actress.
Yeah.
She was really good, but that character, fuck that bitch.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
But I've seen on when it came out, because I watched it when it came out, and I saw on the internet, a lot of people were like, "Meh, it's mid" or whatever.
Yeah.
I fucking loved it. I thought it was amazing.
The only scene, obviously I've seen little tiny clips of it, but the only scene that really like stuck with me was the dog scene where they poisoned the dog.
Oh yeah. No,
I'll never watch this show now.
Well, I mean, if you're never gonna watch it, I'll spoil it for you right now.
I mean, go ahead. I don't give a shit.
All right, spoiler warning for anyone listening for Midnight Mass, even though it's been out for probably like a couple years.
Yeah.
There's a scene where I can't remember any of the names. It's been a minute, but he's kind of like the main character a little bit, and there's like because he's coming back to like a hometown, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And he has like an ex-girlfriend or whatever that they, when they split, and he went off or whatever, they reconnect. And what actually happened is he's the first to have met the vampire, and he got, quote unquote, turned. Yeah. And instead of wanting to turn into the monster, he actually brought his like ex or whatever out on this boat, and was like explaining to her what happened, that like she needs to get out of there and everything like that. And I'm trying to it's been a couple years, I'm trying to remember, but the scene so vividly is like the sun starts to rise, and they're having like this super like passionate scene of like, I'm sorry, I still love you and everything like that. And as they like, I can't remember if they're about to kiss or whatever, but like then it just straight like cuts to him burning and her screaming. Like,
Jesus.
It was so but it's like burn. I can't remember exactly, but it's like burn. It was such a good scene. The major tangent, but I love that show. It's so fucking good. I need to rewatch it. And it also has one of my favorite people, Raul. He does the voice for
for what's his face from Bolt Gun.
Yeah, what is it? Starts with a C.
Yeah.
I can't fucking remember. I didn't play Bolt Gun.
I did,
but
me and Evan both played it.
But yeah, he's dope. He's in it. He's the sheriff.
Malum Cato.
That's it. But yeah. Anyway, huge fucking tangent.
That's the only reason why I know about that is he was in it.
I watched him when he was in iZombie. If you ever saw that show,
I haven't.
He's like the best friend of the character, and she, he helps her with the whole zombie thing and all that.
That's interesting.
But yeah, that's when I first saw him, and then he's gotten some better roles and things like that. It's cool. Really cool. Really cool. But yeah,
back to the
major tangent after tangent.
I should not have brought up Midnight Mass.
Dude, it's a great show. I don't care what anyone says. It's fucking great.
But yeah, that's the vibe that, this guy's giving off. It felt very like zealot.
Yeah. And Crane and Alice kind of confront him, and basically is like, you're getting up on this fucking soapbox and spewing trash. Like, you're not actually helping anyone. You're not figuring out what happened. Like, you're not actually doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the priest is like, you haven't even, you still have yet to catch the person that's killed my son. Like, basically kind of doing the same thing Abigail is like, you're ex-lovers with the Nailbiter. Like, how can we truly trust you and everything like that? And he also is trying to say, like, if we police ourselves, then, like, we can prevent this from ever happening. Mm-hmm. He's, like, trying to prop himself up and, like, essentially on a power trip, like secure power for himself.
Yeah. He's also setting up, like a secret police type deal.
Yeah.
or it reminds me very much of what was that book? 1984.
Yes,
I believe
he's setting up his own version of the Inquisition.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Essentially, like, you know, the whole like you said, like 1984, where it's like report your neighbor, keep an eye on your neighbor, and everything.
Brother eye, that kind of deal.
And by the end of that kind of scene where they're going back and forth, you can see the crowd kind of going like, like, how can we trust Ukraine? Like, you see very much doubting her and everything like that.
You see that the townsfolk are starting to turn her.
To turn on her. We cut back to Finch at this like old bee farm, this house, and he's having a conversation with the guy that lived there, the one that pulled the shotgun on him. And the guy essentially is like, I've never heard of Carol. I don't know anything about that. And Finch is kind of using some of his old army interrogator tricks where he ends up getting the guy to like fuck up and be like, that's why I liked your boy Carol. He never dug too deep on the subject, real professional like. And Finch is like,
you said you never met
him. You said you never met him. You said you didn't know who he is. Nope. And the guy's like,
had the surprise Pikachu face.
Yeah. And Finch is like, like I just caught you in a lie. Now you want to tell me what you and Carol talked about? And as he says that, he hears something from the basement. Mm-hmm. And Finch is like, studying. He's like, what was that? And the guy's like, I didn't hear nothing. And Finch is like, well, who else is here? And the guy just fucking pulls the shotgun again. He's like, it's just your best interest to fucking just leave. Yeah. Like, you didn't hear nothing. Like, don't ask any more questions. Like, get out of my house. And Finch is like, lower your gun. They fucking draw on each other. And at first, Finch is like, who are you hiding in the basement? And he's like, the guy with the shotgun, he's like, I'm protecting this town.
Yeah.
And Finch is like, well, from what? Like, what's down there? And the guy's just like, I can't let you know. Like, I can't let you know who's down there, which I don't know why he can't just be like, it's my grandpa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think, and this is kind of what I was talking about, I think this guy is a serial killer.
Probably. That never got caught.
Or he's somebody with murderous intention, and his grandson found out just in the nick of time and has been basically keeping him prisoner the whole time.
And like using the bees to like satiate.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was like, I could see why he's down there.
But fucking Finch shoots him in the leg.
Yeah, just fucking straight caps him.
Yeah, caps him in the leg. And the guy's like, I can't believe you actually fucking shot me.
Why can you not believe that?
Yeah.
He's giving you no fucking indicator that he wouldn't shoot you.
And Finch is just like, I've been known to lose my cool. And but the guy keeps like, don't go down there. Don't go down there. And Finch starts walking down to the basement, hearing the guy fucking sing whatever fucking creepy song he's singing. And it shows the dark figure from the beginning of this part who is fucking with the bees. It's this older gentleman, and he's like got a fucked up face from like bee stings.
That's what I was thinking.
And he basically is like, oh, so you're the one that like has my bees all riled up, like, you know, they don't appreciate the yelling and everything. Mm-hmm. And Finch was like, well, your grandson pulled a fucking gun on me, so I fucking clipped him, and because he didn't want me to come down here. And the guy just starts like going on this fucking ramble. He's like, did you know that when honeybees sting you, they die? And that's when we get the quote from the beginning, because he's like, what kind of predator would sacrifice itself so that it could kill another just to protect its home? And Finch is like me, what the hell is this guy fucking talking about?
Man, if that were me, I'd be like, damn, that was cold.
Bars.
And then I would have died.
Bars. Respect. And then the guy's like, now wasps and hornets, that's a whole nother story. They secrete pheromones when they're in danger to alert others to come and help them. And that's where you're thinking the pheromones. I don't think he's talking about like actual pheromone. I think he's just talking like, he's just giving bee facts, you know?
He's just straight bee
facts?
Yeah,
he's just giving you a fucking bee fact. And
bee fact number 42, this is going to hurt.
And because he also says that, you know, the bees in Buckaroo have been in danger for years. They're all scared. Their pheromones in the air. Can't you smell it? I don't think the pheromones are causing anything. He's just saying that he knows the bees are scared because they are releasing a pheromone. Okay. I don't think the pheromones are actually...
This is going to be really interesting when we come back in a year and we read volume 2, if it gets answered in volume 2, and we're like, oh, damn, it was the bees.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you a little tickle on the pickle if that's the case. How about that? And the Finch is like, so you've been studying these bees, training them? And the guy's like, you can't train bees. What do you think I am, fucking crazy?
That shit is fucking funny. Where he's like, he has just such a moment of clarity, like, no, that's absolutely stupid. Why the fuck would you even say that?
But he's like, for some reason, I'm invulnerable to the bees. Like, they sting me and I don't die. And it's like, okay, cool. And Finch is like, is that why Carol came out here? Because of the bee pheromones? And the fucking old dude loses it at the name of fucking Carol. He goes like, Carol, you know him? Get off my property, bitch! And fucking starts
chasing him. Or he
fucking summons
he's
bees.
Like a bee-mancer. Bee-mancer.
A fucking etamancer, whatever the fuck they are. And like just all these bees start fucking coming at him, and Finch is like, fuck. Like, oh shit.
It reminds me of that, I think it's Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
The bees, not the bees!
Yeah, exactly. But that is the end of part 8, where Finch is just like, oh fuck, like shit.
I definitely see your point in the, like, it's very disjointed. Yeah. There's also a lot of like just back and forth, where there seems to be a lot of plot threads going on in one chapter. Yeah. So I can definitely see your point of like, oh, it feels a little bit disjointed.
Like it's not a bad
no
issue or chapter or whatever. It's not. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just out of the other 10, to me, it's the weakest. Yeah. That's not to say it's bad. It's just out
of left field.
A little
maybe
bit.
Maybe
not left field, but it's like maybe the B question should have been posed maybe a little bit earlier. Like maybe in the
that maybe, yeah, I could see that. Like maybe have that be the first thought of like, oh, there has to be a scientific reason for this. Yeah, and they start looking into the bees, and they're like, okay, well, no, that wasn't it.
Or just even, like, because the motel fire happened super early in this run, have this be one of the things he does after the motel room, because he has the notes from the motel room. So why not have this be something he does? Because it's not like it really leads anywhere.
No, at least not right now.
Yeah, like, it's not like he found Carol because of this. It's just like he's following Carol's fucking trail and comes across a crazy bee-mancer.
Yeah. Now, I will say the thing that happens after he summons the bees is absolutely fucking terrifying. I'm sure there's a scene that I'm talking about.
Yeah. Also another reason why I don't like bees. But we go into part 9. Mm-hmm. The quote is, "This is the only way," which is very ominous.
Very ominous.
We start off part 9 with a nice enough looking bus driver picking up some kids from school, and the narration is actually from the journal of Carol. Yeah. Like, these are
like present day Carol.
Yeah, these are segments of maybe the notes that Finch found or whatever like that. Basically talking about the Buckaroo fuck.
Hey, you finally did it.
The Buckaroo butchers, and like kind of again talking about them. Like, it mentions the blonde, it mentions Nailbiter. It talks about that Mr. Fatal is one. That's a new one that they hadn't talked about yet. Believed to have murdered 40 people. One of the most brutal and horrific of the Buckaroo butchers. Never caught. Many at the Bureau think of him now more as a boogeyman. Then it again mentions the blonde and mentions Nailbiter as those being the most notable Buckaroo butchers. Yeah. It's gonna get me again. And now it shows that same bus driver, but some years have passed. Yeah. Because whenever it was talking about those different Buckaroo Butchers, it was the bus driver picking them up on the school bus in Buckaroo.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see his demeanor change. Like, you have the first serial killer, which is the Mr. Fatal, and the bus driver's all cheery. Then you have the blonde. She's getting on the bus. He's, like, still cheery, but kind of down.
Yeah.
And then by Warren, he's kind of like...
He's over it.
Yeah, he's kind of over it. And then we get to today, and he looks like he's been through the shit.
Yeah, he
like
looks like he's on his third divorce and last pack of cigarettes.
Exactly.
Like,
he's got no money in the bank.
Yeah, he's ready.
But he's picking up the kids for school, and the kids are just kind of, you know, they're chatting. They even
they're talking about the
they
butchers.
talk about the butchers and kind of treating them like heroes. Like, this one's my favorite. Oh, this one's my favorite.
Because they even start talking about one butcher who's kind of like a luchador.
Yeah.
Where the way he killed people was he performed like dangerous wrestling moves that caused them to die.
Yeah. And then they pass the school, and the kids immediately are like, "Uh-oh, Waggy."
Where are we going?
Yeah, so where are we going, Mr. Because the bus driver's name is Crow. Where are we going, Mr. Crow? And then it cuts back to Finch at the bee house, and he's just shooting into the fucking swarm of bees.
Like, he's like waiting for the health bar to start going down.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
oh, this ain't
exactly.
working.
Well, actually, I guess I should say he's shooting more at the guy, but like in my head, it's just a swarm of bees, and he's just like, bah, 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 like, fucking get away from me.
I'll get at least 10 of you.
But the old guy's like, your gun is useless, you fool. You can't run fast enough. And the guy, the fucking grandson he shot in the leg, he's like, dude, you need to like get up and run. And the guy's like, I fucking told you not to go down there. How many times did I fucking tell you not to go down there? I even pulled a gun on you. And they start booking it outside. And of course, the dude got shot in the leg.
Yeah, so
he's fucked.
He trips.
Yeah, Finch used the old adage of like, I don't need to outrun the bear. I just need to outrun you, because he's not even looking back. He's just fucking Usain Bolt fucking gone.
He's out.
And the grandson is like getting stung up, and he's like, oh, it fucking hurts. And then Finch is like, fuck, like, okay, I'm coming. And he turns around, and that dude is like just covered in
bees going into his mouth.
Going in his. It reminds me of the Mummy with the
Oh
beetles.
yeah, 100%.
That shit used to freak me out as a kid. I'm good. And I don't like bees as is. So the idea of like the bees just swarming like every orifice.
Yeah, there was one movie. I think it was from a sci-fi movie. I watched this when I was fucking like 7 years old.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember the name of it.
I love the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, same. It was a movie about, I don't know if they were bees or wasps. It was one of the two. And it was a mutation, like a genetic mutation they had evolved, because it was like getting too dangerous for them to just like lay eggs anywhere. And it was they would sting you and lay their eggs.
I think I know what you're talking about.
And it was a dude, his girlfriend, or like his like friend, and then her son or something like that. And I just remember one of the characters that they were with got stung, and like his fucking stomach was just full of them, and it was like he like exploded and shit. Oh my god!
It reminds me of because you have the creatures from the mist that do something similar.
Yeah, the spiders.
Yep.
Oh.
And then you also had Cloverfield, which the little
fleas.
The little monsters off the big one or whatever. The fleas.
That's what people call them, the fleas.
Yeah, they would bite you, and then like fucking like an hour later, you would literally like fucking explode.
Yeah.
So that's what that reminds me of.
I wish I could remember that, because the other scene I remember is the kid got stung in the neck, and the boyfriend was like, he was like a doctor or something like that, and he was like, the only way to save him is for me to cut him open. And I just remember that scene because he like cuts him open. He has to like pull it out of his neck and stuff. Oh my god, I wish I could remember that so I could show you the clip from it. That movie was fucking
no
crazy.
thanks. I'm fucking good, dog. Hell, fucking no.
Yeah, side tangent over. So yeah, this guy gets absolutely fucking dunked on by
Some bees,
by Charlie the Bee or whatever the fuck that guy's name
and
is.
Finch is literally like,
I'm
dude,
out.
I hate this town. I'm fucking gone. And he finds shelter back in, like, he does like a no, hold on. He finds shelter somewhere, but it looks like he made it back to the house and went through like the storm doors.
Yeah.
But because in the next scene it shows the house again, and it looks like someone is coming through storm doors, but they're actually just coming down the stairs. So you kind of get this weird thing where you're like, oh, maybe it's like Finch or whatever. Mm-hmm. But Finch is actually in a cave. So
yeah,
it kind of plays on that. Like if you're not paying close enough attention, you're like, oh shit, like he's back in the house. But it's actually the first person view of like the murderer, the fucking new butcher or whatever. Yeah. And the old guy is like, what are you doing in my house? Like, you can tell your master to go fuck off. And the guy's Jesus Christ, I keep hitting the fucking mic. I talk with my hands to anyone listening. So like, we
need to get those like floating mics that I can attach to the table.
I'm telling you right now, it wouldn't change anything. I talk like big movements with my hands.
Yeah.
But the new killer fucking just isn't even listening to the guy and just murders him. I'm wondering if he murders him because he's like not a part of like
the plan.
Like he's not like, I feel like because he says tell your master go fuck off, so I feel like there's like a group, right?
100%.
And so I feel like because this old guy's just been in this basement, like his grandson's been like keeping him isolated, they're like, oh, we can't have just a rando NPC out there, we need to contain this, so they fucking kill him.
What if this is a theory, what I forget if it was, I think it's Hank's dad that becomes the priest. What if he is like the ringleader?
I don't believe that.
You don't think so?
I don't.
Even though they found that, like, granted, they could have just bought it from the store, but they found that the book burner stuff in Hank's, like
that was they already talked about that. They did planted.
Okay.
Well, not planted, but like because Hank was helping. Them and stuff. That's how they got the connection for him to Raleigh or whatever, the owner of the museum.
Okay.
Yeah, that's already been answered. I don't think it's.
But I do agree with you. I don't think it's just one or even two people. I think it's multiple people.
Yeah, I think it's a group. But Alice is out in the woods or whatever and is like, I don't know, hiking. She's got like a map or something. Maybe
she's looking for something.
And then she's like, what is that noise? And she's like, nothing. I should be the only one out here. And then fucking Finch is just like, hey, out of the bushes, like, yo, what's up?
That's a good way to get your fucking face snapped, fucking just punched in.
And he's like, you got a cell phone? And Alice is like, here you go. And he calls Abigail and he's like, you gotta come check out this fucking weird house with the bees and everything like that. And they fucking show up and all of it's gone.
Yeah.
All of the stuff in the basement is fucking gone. Everything.
Yeah, it's like barren.
Yeah, and the only thing that is left, because Abigail is basically like, Finch, you're fucking crazy. Like, she just lets out this sigh. And as they're leaving, fucking Alice just fucking kills a bee that's on the wall. That's the only thing that's fucking down there.
Yeah.
It's just like a single bee that she fucking kills. Badass, by the way, because she does it with her bare fucking hand.
Yeah.
But then Crane, it cuts to Crane and she's coming home and she can tell that her door is like unlocked or open or whatever. And she comes in and the fucking priest is there.
Yeah.
And he's basically like trying to scare her and stuff into be like,
he says that the door was open.
Yeah, he's like, the door was already open, so I just let myself in. And he's like, is that a problem? And she's like, fucking yeah.
That's called breaking and entering, asshole.
Yeah. And he's just like, oh, as a concerned citizen, thought you might need help. We live in dangerous times, trying to be threatening.
Yeah, like definitely. He's throwing his weight around.
Yeah, he's trying to find evidence that she's in cahoots with Warren.
Yeah.
And she's basically like, fucking, you're being concerned by going through my mail? Fucking get out. And she kicks him out she's like, before I fucking arrest you. And she finally fucking gets him out of the house. And this is coming up where I'm like, oh my God. She's like getting undressed for the day. She's gonna like lay down, get some fucking sleep or whatever.
Yeah, she's running on like 2 hours.
Yeah, she strips down to like a fucking wife beater and some underwear. She lays on the bed, lets out a sigh, and she's like, what a week. And it's this full spread, this full horizontal spread of her laying on the bed with her hand dangling off the edge of the bed, and fucking Warren is just underneath the fucking bed. When I saw that, when I turned the page and saw that, I literally fucking jumped.
Yeah.
I was like, holy fucking shit. And her hand is dangling right in front of his face, and he goes like, oh my. Because he's Nailbiter. And fucking like blows it a kiss or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's literally like, the fuck? Looks under her bed. Warren's gone. The window's open. That's why I'm thinking there's some supernatural shit going on. Because that man fucking teleported or has the speed of fucking light. Because, like, no fucking way. That's one. I mean, obviously, it can be just used for, like, artistic purposes. Yeah. But to me, I'm like, okay, that's like some supernatural. And then you had the bees. Yeah. And stuff like there's got to be some supernatural shit going on.
Another thing it could be, it might not be supernatural. It might be mental.
Yeah.
Like maybe he's actually not there.
Maybe that's true too.
And she's thinking he's there.
That's true. I didn't think about it like that. That could be the case.
Yeah.
I think he was legit there.
No, I do too.
I think he was legit there.
I do too. I think he's legit there as well because what he does. Obviously, it's still fucking creepy. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
but he doesn't go straight into like biting her nails or anything like that. He's almost very like he's gentle with her, like almost like he doesn't see her as like a target or a victim.
I think she still technically could be a target or victim, but I think. Because I think Warren still very much loves her.
Yeah, I do too.
And so I think that's one of the reasons why he came back to Buckaroo, why he's living there, because she's there, and he plays this fucking game with her all the time.
I completely agree.
So I think he still is in love with her.
And I do think he was there as well, but I'm keeping in the back of my mind of like, these are people who are probably working around the clock.
Yeah, that's
They've
true.
been working for like a week straight at this point, and who knows how much sleep they're really getting.
Yeah,
because a lot of these murders and fucking incidences are happening at the dead of night, so it could be her thinking he's there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was having like an outer body experience.
Yeah, I think some supernatural shit's going on.
Yeah.
But she's like awake now, and as she's standing there, she gets a call about the school kids going missing in the school bus.
Mm-hmm.
And all the kids are like crying and scared. And Mr. Crow's like, I'm sorry, but I can't allow you to go back to the arms of your parents. I can't. One of the kids is like, why? And Crow's basically like, this bus has transported at least 8 of the Buckaroo butchers.
That's wild.
That's half.
Yeah.
Half the Buckaroo bookers have taken this bus. I have picked them up. All the young minds, I can't let them be corrupted.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And he's like, the devil's got a hold on Buckaroo's soul. And he's basically, it's kind of like this mindset of like, I'm trying to save the town.
Yeah.
He doesn't think, he knows what he's doing is bad, but he's like, for the greater good, I have to do this bad thing. And then it pulls out to outside the bus at the edge of like a lake or whatever. And Crow's basically like, with this cleansing water, it will end here. Maybe we can save your souls as well. This is the only way. The only way I can make sure none of you grow up to be serial killers. And that's the end of part 9.
Yeah. Pretty good
Yeah.
chapter. And this kind of brings in an aspect about horror / crime, occult stuff that I really like, is the religious aspect of it, especially because, you know, obviously I'm from Indiana, but I grew up in the South.
Yeah.
Like that, Tennessee is my home.
Yeah, and
So
this is the Bible Belt, baby.
Yeah. I kind of just gave away where we live, but
Tennessee's a big state.
it is. It's a fucking massive state. But like, I really love the paranoia that goes into religion.
Yeah.
When it comes to horror, where it's like they're afraid of this like almost supernatural like event that's going on in their town, and they've equated it to a curse that has plagued them for generations, and now they feel the only way for them to break this curse is to become devout and to repent on these preconceived sins that they've given themselves. And I don't know. I hope they continue with it, and I think they will, obviously, because I think Hank's dad, I forget what his actual name is, but
I don't remember either.
I definitely think he's going to be like a major character.
Probably.
And I don't know. I really like the idea of taking, you know, a religion that, you know, a lot of people find comfort in religion and making it something that's like super uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to make a statement on religion. I do like it being used narratively in stories as well.
Oh, yeah. Good or bad.
Yeah. I like, because I'm a big fantasy fan, I like, you know, when religion, whether it be based on a real religion or a fake religion or whatever, you know, like a made up pantheon and stuff like that. I like when it's incorporated into stories because I think it's a great device to cause conflict, especially like say you have a story like this, you know, it's based or like we're in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
Say you have a story based in like the Bible Belt and stuff, and you have a character that, you know, believes, and then a character that doesn't, but they have to work together, and you could use that difference in religion as a way to put tension between them, if done well, you know, believably and everything like that. But I don't know. I have used religion based off like Christianity and other real religions in my D&D games before. Like I did a kind of Dark Souls, Elden Ring inspired D&D campaign with my one group.
Yeah.
And a big part of it, they had gone to a town, and I used basically Christianity and fucking flipped it on its head, made it essentially evil.
Yeah.
Not to make any statement on how I feel about religion, but I like
real world.
Yeah, yeah. I like subverting things.
Yeah.
When I do like my D&D, and also this is supposed to be a world that, you know, it like Elden Ring or Dark Souls. It was once at a prime. You are now on the backslide.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I like 40K. Like,
right.
You know, it was a prime peak golden age. You're where you're at. This is the backslide. This is where it all fucking fell apart. So everything that was good at one point is now bad, and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not opposed to religion being in stories if done well. I'm also do not care if it's not in there.
Yeah.
I just think it can be used as a great
narrative device. I completely agree. And again, that's not a commentary on how we feel about religion. I always say do what you want.
As long as you're not hurting other people.
As long as you're not hurting other people, I don't give a shit. And that's really all I'll say on that. But I do love when it is, like you said, used as a narrative device, whether that be for good or for evil. Yeah. And in this case, it definitely feels like it's going to be used for evil. And if they continue with it and they write it well, I feel like that's going to be like my favorite aspect of the story.
Like you said, great comparison is Midnight Mass.
Oh, yeah.
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 Well, since this is one of your favorite parts, do you want to lead us on this one?
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay.
So yeah, for part 10, the final part of Nailbiter Volume 1, we open up with the quote, "I was only trying to stop them from becoming killers." That was a pretty cool quote. I love that quote. And it opens straight up with that bus at basically the shore of the lake, and one of the kids, Timmy, has escaped the bus, and he's running, and he trips and he falls over this huge branch, and when he looks up, super metal as fuck, by the way, the serial killer, the villain that we have been introduced to wearing the ram skull helmet, is riding on top of a black horse being silhouetted by the sun.
You know what that imagery reminds me of?
What?
Frazetta's Death Dealer.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I completely agree with that. It is so cool. If this was a poster, I'd probably buy it.
Yeah.
Like if this panel was a poster.
Yeah. It's very good.
It's really good. And the kid's looking at him, and the killer just says like he shushes him.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell that the killer has no interest in kids.
Yeah. Which is good.
Good. Well, yeah, 100% good.
Which is good.
But which is also kind of interesting because something that we didn't mention is that when Warren was talking with Bendis at that playground, there were still kids there, and he was walking over to the swing set, and Bendis stopped him, and he was like, "You're not going anywhere near those children." And he looks at Bendis and he says, "Are you an idiot? If you knew who I was and followed me, you would know I have no interest in children."
Yeah.
You know, I do not kill children. They're off limits to me.
Yeah.
Only adults.
I don't know if the other butchers were similar, but
Yeah,
I don't
know.
I don't think anything had been stated that kids were involved in any of the butchers' murders.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was stated. I don't think so. So I think for the most part, all the butchers never killed kids.
Correct. Yeah.
I could be wrong on that.
I think you are right because I too have not seen anything about
Yeah.
kids being harmed. So yeah, he tells the kid to shush, and then he starts riding away. Or no, he's sitting there, and the kid runs away crying for help, and Mr. Crow catches him and starts to take him back to the bus. At this point, back at the town, everyone is there because it's like obviously
It's all their kids.
It's all their kids. It's the media's there, all that stuff, and Crane is trying to fucking
Manage it.
Yeah, manage this shit. And let me tell you, Crane has more balls than I do because I could not fucking do it.
Balls of fucking steel.
Yeah, for real. And that's when Finch and Alice catch back up with Crane, and at this point, the preacher, he is starting to basically bring down the good word, saying that that Crane can't do any good for us anymore, and all that stuff. And I will say that they bring up the fact that, you know, the person driving the bus was Mr. Crow, and he's the one that took the kids, and the preacher is actually saying, like, Mr. Crow is a good man.
Yeah, man of God.
He's a man of God, and he would do nothing to harm those children. And then the moment it comes out that Mr. Crane was the
Mr.
one
Crow.
or Mr. Crow took the kids, he's instantly like, oh, he's had a lapse in his
faith
and
yeah,
all
he's
that
backpedaling.
yeah, which is seems about right for somebody in this type of role.
Yeah.
So they are full on like, all right, we gotta find these fucking kids. And Sheriff Crane lays into this priest and is like, you know, if you want to fucking do some good and actually save this town, how about you get all the people, since you're good at gathering them, and have them search the perimeter.
Do a search party.
Yeah, do a search party and actually do some goddamn good.
Yeah, instead of just fucking standing there yapping.
Yeah.
What are you, a Twitch streamer? Quit your fucking yapping.
Yeah. Yeah. And they get word from one of Crane's like men that they found the bus.
Yeah.
And they're getting there. They show a girl crying for help, and he drives them straight off a cliff into the lake. And Finch and Crane jump right in. Crane is saving kids, pulling them out of the bus, while Finch is whooping some ass. and one kid she's not able to get to, and Finch goes underwater to save him, gets the kid out. Everything's good, and then that's when Crow is starting to just absolutely lose his fucking mind. Crane is ready to shoot him, and Finch is trying to like talk him down. And Crow is like, I was just trying to help them, stop them from turning into murderers. This town is cursed. And then as he's talking, the little girl that was crying stabs him in the throat with I think they're a pair of scissors. I can't see for certain.
He gets stabbed in the throat.
Yeah, he gets stabbed in the throat. He fucking dies.
Yep.
Yeah, he bleeds out. And what's really fucked up is like obviously Finch is trying to save this guy's life. And Crane takes the little girl that stabbed Crow and is like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. And you see the close up of the little girl's face, and she's covered in blood, smiling.
Yeah, like
it
makes you go like, maybe
he had a point.
Maybe he had a point.
Yep. And this is where we get the, you know, the priest going back on his word, saying like, oh, Mr. Crow had grown distant and bitter in these last few you know, months, straying from church and the word of God and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know,
they're doing the stereotype that character in these types of stories does.
The doomsday.
Yeah. Well, it's also because, like, you know, he's been using his faith as a way to garner power within the community.
Rally people.
But then you had someone who was that you were spouting was of faith and would never do anything of harm. Well, he's now doing something of harm, and it's like, oh, that's bad PR.
100%.
We need to distance that as far away from us as possible.
100%.
So
it's like the mega church people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can think of someone right off the top of my head. But, you know.
We got quite a few.
Yeah. Bible Belt, baby.
Bible Belt, yeah.
We got them all.
Yeah, we got all of them. And there are 15 private jets.
Yeah.
So the ambulance is there. The little girl's parents show up. All the kids are safe. Thank God none of the kids died. You know, that little girl will definitely grow up to be a fucking monster, but who knows? Maybe she'll just level out soon. I hope so.
Fingers crossed.
And, you know, Agent Abigail Baker is, you know, saying like, oh, you know, did you interrogate little Miss Killer, you know, talking about the little girl, all that kind of stuff. And
yeah.
Crane is like, I'm not going to bother with that right now.
Yeah, I got bigger
fucking fish to fry. And that's when Finch, he walks over to the lake edge, and he was like, oh, this lake is man-made. And Crane's like, how do you know that? Because obviously Finch isn't from there. And she goes, how do you know that? And he was like, when I went underwater, I saw something. And that is when they reveal this Mayan Aztec style temple at the bottom of the lake in this town.
Which isn't this town in like fucking Michigan?
No, it's in Portland. It's in Oregon.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Because Portland is like an hour drive.
Yeah.
So, which is still wild. That's
still wild.
You know, it's still the Northwest.
Yeah,
right there.
Okay. So you know how you're talking about the science thing?
Yeah.
The only thing that I could be like, okay, science factors in is if they go like it's in the water.
Yeah, because like a Nathan Drake or the first Uncharted game.
Yeah.
Where they were talking about the gold or whatever, and the chemicals in the gold thing was making them crazy.
That's a route I could see them take more than say like the bees, because the bees I think is too far out there.
Yeah,
the it's in the water makes a little bit more sense.
It's kind of like
my opinion.
What's that one? The Crazies.
Yes,
I think that was a water thing.
Timothy Olyphant.
There's two. There's the remake from the early 2000s, and then the really old one.
Oh yeah. I just remember the remake.
Yeah, I do too. That's the main one that I've seen. But I believe that one was also a water issue.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
A lot of horror movie references this episode.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I used to be like, you know, like I'm not much of a horror fan in the sense of like I don't really go out and see horror stuff. Like I play horror games. That's usually the most I do. But now through like talking through this book and everything, I'm like, man, I've actually seen a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, you don't think about it. So yeah, they reveal this Aztec style temple, fucking badass. By the way,
Yeah.
When I saw this, I was like, oh fuck, that's cool as shit. This is like the only reason why I haven't fully ruled out the supernatural thing.
Yeah.
But the like it's in the water thing is also a big.
See, my theory is that, so the stereotype for like Mayan and Aztecs and all that,
Yeah.
you see in movies and games all the time, is that they do the sacrifice where they pull out the heart. Right. My theory is that they might be capitalizing on that stereotype and being like, well, since it's underwater, no one's been sacrificing to whatever deity or whatever. You know, I don't know how historically accurate they're going to get with this, considering it's like a fucking Aztec Mayan fucking temple in Oregon of all places.
Yeah.
So historically accurate, I'm not 100% sure they're going to be going with.
Right.
But like to me, it's going to be like, oh, because no one's been like doing a sacrifice every year or whatever. It makes people killers because that's how it's getting like the blood and the sacrifice.
That's your supernatural.
Yeah, that's my supernatural theory on it.
Okay, I can see that. So Crane is like, okay, so that's wild.
Yeah.
First off. And she's like, but that still doesn't give us any answers, and we don't have any like leads. And Finch is like, I think it's time that we change strategies. And he's like, we're going to start doing this my way now.
Yeah.
And that's when we cut to Edward Warren's house, and we hear whistling. And it kind of makes you think like, oh, he was the one that was down there.
Yeah.
And scared Bendis.
Which I could see.
I could see that. He's whistling. He's making food. And then someone fucking kicks his door in.
And you're getting that POV shot that we've seen.
Yeah, the POV shot. And fucking Warren's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And he just gets his shit kicked in. He is getting the absolute shit beat out of him. He gets handcuffed to a chair. And he's like, I think he makes a Hannibal reference. And he's like, well, you got me here now, or you got me where you want me. What now, brown cow?
Yeah,
that's a part of like the whole like, put the lotion on the skin. Gets.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
Yeah,
but
and that's and the part one ends, or book one ends with Finch basically saying like, I've tried doing this the nice way. I've tried being the respectful. And everyone in this town is scared of you. Well, let me tell you, I'm not scared of you.
Yeah.
He's bringing out that military training, and he's like, the last guy I interrogated, I accidentally killed them. That was an accident. You might not be that lucky. And he opens up his tools, and it's got like fucking
all the classic torture interrogation shit.
Yeah, and it just says to be continued.
Yeah.
And that's the end of book one.
Finch is like, let's get started.
Yeah. Such a crazy end to the book.
Yeah.
Like that left me on like such a huge cliffhanger. It is a struggle not reading.
What's funny is because Finch says right when he gets him in the chair and everything, he's like, I should have done this from the beginning. And it's kind of like, yeah,
you really should have. Yeah,
because now that we're here, it's like, I guess you should have done this.
There's quite a few people dead now.
Yeah, like you might have saved some lives, but I get it because Crane's, she's by the book.
Yeah, good due process,
find evidence and everything like that. And again, no leads. It's and people dying and kids almost getting murdered. It's time to bend and break the rules a little bit.
Oh yeah, it's so interesting. I'm so interested to see where this story goes.
I am very glad this is like the first like horror comic that I've read.
And Nicole's huge into horror like books. She has one book. It's a one-off. Written by Grant Morrison called Nameless, and it's a science fiction eldritch like H.P. Lovecraft type story, and it's about some astronauts on the moon, I think, and it's crazy. You'll have to look up some pictures of it, but be careful. I don't know if there's spoilers.
Right.
It deals a lot with Lovecraftian horror and like body horror.
I'm very familiar because I have an amazing H.P. Lovecraft. It's like red, gold, black embroidered. You've probably seen it. It is a very beautiful book of all of H.P. Lovecraft's stories and stuff like that. And I've read through that at least halfway.
Yeah,
because for me, that's like I'm going to sit down and read like one or two stories. And
because it's not one story. It's a bunch of like smaller.
It's a collection.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
So I'm about halfway through that. But very good.
Yeah.
The only thing about it is sometimes the prose for the way it's written is kind of hard to follow
because it's written in like Old English, right?
Not Old English,
it's not like Tolkien.
But it's just like, the way people talked back in like the 30s or 40s is way different than how we do now. So it's like, it just takes some adjustment. It's not like when I read the fucking Odyssey, which shows how much of a nerd I am, because I read that outside of school. We didn't read that in school. I read that in my fucking free time.
Yeah.
That and the Iliad. But like when I read the Odyssey, that was like a slog to get through because the way it was just written is just so vastly different from how we write now.
That's why a lot of people can't finish the Lord of the Rings trilogy or Hobbit, because it's written in Old English, and for some people it's really difficult. I didn't have an issue with it, and listening to it as well. I think listening to it's better, but that I can definitely understand that.
But we've been going on tangents like a motherfucker today.
Yeah.
But back to Nailbiter. It's really good. I super enjoy the mystery. I think the mystery is super solid. I think a lot of the questions that they posed in this first volume are interesting in their own right enough to want to get them answered. The characters are all really well done.
Yeah, I like all the characters.
I don't think there's a single character that I find super lacking.
Yeah. Obviously, there are like fodder characters,
right,
that like don't really have a whole lot of personality, but they're not.
I'm talking like the main four.
Yeah,
Finch, Crane, Alice, and Warren. Yeah. I think are all super well done, super interesting. I'm excited to see where they go. Like I said, I'm super excited for the Crane and Warren dynamic. I'm super excited to see what's going on with Alice. Finch,
he's definitely the ride along.
Yeah, I kind of want to know what he did and why the guy died and everything, which we'll probably get to. And I'm hoping it's somewhat relative to everything else going on. But I would say out of the four, Finch is probably the one that I'm like least curious about.
I agree, but I think that might change with book 2.
Maybe.
I think we're going to start seeing more of like the aggressive side of Finch, because Finch feels very like down to earth.
He also feels restrained.
Because like he's holding himself back.
Because it said he has an anger issue, like temper problem.
Yeah.
And throughout this whole book, like you don't really see it, but you feel like it's like just right under the surface, just waiting to finally be let out.
Yeah.
And with him interrogating Warren, I think that's him finally like, I'm about to show you the bad mamma jamma that I am.
Yeah. And I think we'll definitely start to see some strain on like Crane and Finch's relationship, because we mentioned in part 1 that Crane is very like by the books, doesn't break the rules, very level-headed, while Finch believes that like you should follow the rules, but the rules are pliable.
Yeah, and
you
also,
can bend the shit out of that.
And also, he's kind of like more of a results.
Yeah.
Like,
he wants,
rather than ask for permission, I'll ask for forgiveness as long as I got the results, you know?
Right. I completely agree. And we'll probably see a strain on their relationship because of that.
I'm interested to see if Alice is going to be like she would be a butcher, kind of like a Dexter character, you know?
You think so? Yeah.
I don't know if she's ever really going to kill, but I feel like maybe that's kind of like
the idea,
like a vein that she's going to be in, where she's technically like maybe not take on like Warren taking on like a mentorship for her, but I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like she's going to be the quote unquote good serial killer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or she has the mind of a serial killer.
Yeah. And so she can understand that and, stuff like that. I'm interested to see Warren in his development. I'm interested to see about this fucking group or whatever that is behind the butcher. Like, I'm just interested in the whole fucking thing.
I am too.
I think the story is super well done. It's super interesting. It's less like, it's not like a jump scary type read. It is very much more like the vibe. The vibe is scary.
It's a page turner.
Yeah.
Like it makes you want to know more.
It is very tense.
Yeah.
In the fact that you're just like wanting to know what happens next. What is this mystery unfolding? I would put it more in the vein of like a detective horror kind of show.
It's like True Detective.
Yeah.
The first season of True Detective. Yeah. Just leans a little bit more into the horror and cult aspect of it, I think.
All in all, amazing read.
Yeah.
For volume 1.
I completely agree. It's a hard recommend for me. It is a certified metal as fuck for the podcast. I think this is probably one of the best stories we've covered.
Yeah.
Out of all of the stuff we've read. And it's up there. And it's the first 2-parter that we've had to do because it's like
it's 10 parts.
Yeah, it is. And it's what's crazy is that it doesn't take you a long time to read, but it's very dense. There's a lot of information that gets thrown at you and you really have to like understand it. And I do feel like the episode doesn't fully capture the how dense the story is, and
because we kind of quickly we
gloss,
quickly try and go through things, give you the paraphrased version of
the cliff notes. And you mentioned this in the last episode, in part 1, that the art I feel like is half the story. And that's why I recommend like read this book, because you're only getting what is being said through our podcast. Read it. Like it is, read it, look at it. The art is beautiful. The covers, if you buy the deluxe or the murder edition of the books, I don't know if they're still available because Nicole bought these a long ass time ago. The murder edition of the books, I know, have all the variant covers in the back of the book, and all the covers are beautiful. There are some that are
fucking tastic.
Yeah, some are nods to classic horror movies or horror books. Some are just really good renditions of what happens in the chapter. You know, it's awesome.
Even the cover of the hardcover, it shows looks like a bloody hand, and then the bottom of the book is all red.
Yeah.
And it makes you think that it's like just pooling blood. Well, actually, it's a fucking face.
Yeah.
That's been biting the nails. Of the hand. Hence, Nailbiter.
Yep. But yeah, I think that's really it. I mean, we can't sing the praises enough. It is going to be so hard waiting an entire year to read this book again.
To be fair, I'd be fine with just continuing it. It doesn't have to be a Halloween, because then we can just find something new for next Halloween.
That's true, but the suspense. It's the suspense.
Well, the thing is like if we ever continue it, we're gonna have to reread the first volume.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
We'll think on it. We'll see what we can do. Maybe we'll do a Halloween in July or something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I know I want to do this similar type of thing for December as well. Christmas, yeah. I don't know many Christmas stories besides Batman Noel, but we'll figure it out, I guess.
I was gonna say I don't know shit for Christmas stories.
Yeah.
The only the only Christmas movie I really know is Die Hard. So
yeah. But we'll figure it out. I think that will do it for us. Do you want to outro us?
I mean, what else is there to say? This has been Comics with Friends, the bi-weekly podcast that two best buds get together and read a comic book. We talk about what we like, what we don't like, tell some, well, hopefully funny jokes along the way. And I've been your host, Mason. I've been joined by my wonderful, attractive best bud and co-host, Ethan. And I hope everyone has a great Halloween holiday. And we'll be signing off. Bye.
And remember, read more comics. Bye-bye.